something so disturbing yet unbelievable happens.
Alright, so boom, you already know what time it is. 7 of the worst winter sports accidents on TV history.
Wasn't your normal skier. He loved the extreme sides of it, skiing down steep mountains with hard rocks. And with those sorts of activities, it's just a matter of time until something goes from exciting to life-threatening. And exactly that happened in 1992 during the World Extreme Skiing Championships. At 27, he already made it to the semi-finals, securing him a spot in the top 10 position. And in this round, you can see him standing at the peak of this giant mountain in Alaska without a helmet. And then he starts going.
Here chooses one of the steepest and most technical lines on the 1,000-foot summit.
But just as he approaches the toughest part, a 55-degree slope,
he instantly regrets his decision.
He starts cartwheeling down a 3,000-foot mountain, bouncing off of rocks, his body flipping high into the air. It's a brutal sight for the
I'm gonna just be real with you. Why'd you take your goofy ass all the way up there, dude? Why'd you go all the way up there? Nothing about that was a great idea.
Commentators and everybody watching. They can't do anything to stop him from falling. They're so shocked, the only thing they can say while he's tumbling down is, "You okay, dude?" After 800 gruesome feet and in 37 seconds of falling, his body comes to a halt. Immediately, a medic hurries to his side, since this sport comes with these kinds of risks. And God knows how, he's actually alert and conscious.
I think he might be talking. Looks like he's conscious.
Even though his body ragdolled down rocks for such a long time, he's mostly fine.
Now, falling on snow that's really compacted actually does hurt. It actually does hurt because it's still really hard. Snow is not soft.
And he asked as if my leg was broken, and I really didn't think it was. I'd never broken a bone, you know, I'd really never even been in the hospital before. Then when I tried to lift up my leg, I could see that it was broken.
And after some time of resting, he actually made a full recovery and kept practicing the sport after probably his scariest experience ever. Garrett was an extremely lucky person. The next cases, however, all ended tragically.
Tragically, dude. Fuck.
It's January 29th, 1994, 2 weeks before the Winter Olympics would officially start. Ulrike Meier is one of the top ski racers in the world. She's a world-class alpine racer. Alpine racing is a skiing discipline where athletes race on mountain courses with marked gates. And she's also a 2-time champion in Super G, which is a form of alpine racing that involves a giant slalom. But today isn't about the Olympics yet. It's about the Women's World Cup in Germany. The event is being broadcasted live on TV, and fans, including her own daughter, are watching her in person. Ulrike is about to race, giving it her all.
Uli Meier, Sie kommen aus der Besichtigung zurück. Wie präsentiert sich diese Strecke heute?
Ja, die präsentiert sich nicht so gut. Es ist brutal eisig. Also sehr, sehr glatt und da müssen sie jetzt sicher noch was machen, sonst ist es zu gefährlich.
Her downhill race starts off great. Her form is immaculate, and she's showing the world once again what kind of skill and precision she actually has. She completes the upper sections of the course and reaches a speed of around 65 miles per hour. She's now less than 20 seconds away from the finish line, when suddenly her right ski catches an inside edge of soft snow, causing her to lose control completely. She's thrown off course immediately, and her body strikes a hard pile of snow at enormous speed.
Didn't no, they have safety regulations, but the whole thing with doing extreme sports is that this is what's gonna happen. Like this stuff, the potential for these types of things to happen in extreme sports is like very high. That's why they know they know the risk. But for this to happen to her in this way is like absolutely tragic.
Speeds, and she breaks her neck. Despite wearing a helmet, the world and her 4-year-old daughter witness live as she lies there, unconscious. Medical teams come to the rescue, and a helicopter flies her to a nearby hospital. There's nothing they can do though. She unfortunately succumbs to her injuries. Her death remains one of the darkest moments in the history of competitive skiing. It's March 10th, 2012, at Grindelwald, Switzerland. It's the 8th final of the Ski Cross World Cup season, an event where skiers race down a course filled with turns and jumps. Ski cross is often called one of the most dangerous disciplines in skiing because of the high velocity and sharp turns. But Nick Zorich is no stranger to these risks. He's representing Canada on the world stage today with a decent track record. He already finished second at the Ski Cross World Cup in 2011. The day of the event starts like always. The fans are cheering and excited to watch the race, while the athletes are mentally preparing themselves for the next couple of minutes. The moment Nick starts, he's in top form. He's going through the upper sections of the course without any big problems. He's just slightly behind the others. He's traveling at around 60 miles per hour when a section comes where he needs to jump. And this is where things take a turn for the worse. He misjudges the final jump and launches off the edge. He flies to the right and misses the landing zone entirely. Nick crashes into the safety netting. The impact is catastrophic.
I think
The viewers
I think everybody else in this, the rest of these, I think are gonna be like super gruesome like this.
don't realize the tragic event that just happened in front of their very eyes. Medical teams rush to his aid, but it's simply too late. Despite all the safety precautions, Nick sustains fatal head injuries. At just 29 years old, Nick Zorich's life comes to an abrupt and heartbreaking end on live TV.
Bless, dude.
This very thing ended up sparking a lot of talk about the safety regulations of the sport, and a lot of people, including his family,
Oh. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, YouTube.
he flies to the right and misses the landing zone entirely. Nick crashes into the safety netting. The impact is catastrophic. The viewers don't realize the tragic event that just happened in front of their very eyes. Medical teams rush to his aid, but it's simply
What the fuck
too
is
late.
going on with
Despite
my
all the
browser?
safety precautions
Hold on, chat. I don't know what's going on with my browser right now. It's being kind of like weird. Like, I don't know it has to be my Wi-Fi, right? Like, I don't know. Like, everything just cut off for no reason. Like, my entire like browser just crashed, dude. So maybe I just have too much stuff open. Damn, that was super. That like kind of made me mad, bro. Because like we were in the flow of the video, and we were like locked into the video. I could tell. We was all sitting there, mouths open, breathing deeply, watching the whole video, really vibing. You know?
precautions, Nick sustains fatal head injuries. At just 29 years old, Nick Zorich's life comes to an abrupt and heartbreaking end on live TV. This very thing ended up sparking a lot of talk about the safety regulations of the sport, and a lot of people, including his family, are convinced that his death could have been prevented. The police, however, reported that this was just
How's the
another
volume
sporting
for the video? Is it
accident
good?
and not due to any flaw on the ski course. His family then established the Nick Zorich Foundation to promote safety in skiing and ensure that no other athlete has to suffer the same fate as him. This next case also shows how one simple, tiny mistake can cost you your life.
Oh,
Sarah Berg was the best Canadian freestyle skier. She was extremely skilled, winning the gold medal in the Winter X Games a total of 5 times, an event that includes freestyle skiing. She also won the World Championship in the halfpipe in 2000.
not gonna lie to you guys, chat. This is actually like a super interesting video. Like, are you guys like having a good like enjoying this knowledge that we're getting by watching this? Like, is this like entertaining you guys? You're not gonna ask. I don't want y'all to be on stream watching something that's boring to y'all. You know what I'm saying? I gotta make sure y'all enjoying the content that's curated. Let me know.
2005, which is actually the same sport she managed to introduce to the Olympic Games for the 2014 Winter Olympics. It's safe to say that she was at the top of her field and extremely influential, and the only achievement that could make her career even more impressive would be to participate and win in the Olympics. But before that could happen, she decided to compete in the Winter X Games once again. Unfortunately, she would be long gone by the time of both the Olympics as well as the Winter X Games. It's January 10th, 2012, and Sarah is training at the Park City Mountain Resort in Utah. She's practicing on the Super Pipe, which is a large U-shaped structure for freestyle skiing and snowboarding. While performing her routine though, and practicing her tricks, Sarah flips in midair and falls onto her head. A shocking sight at first, but the accident doesn't appear to be tragic. She's conscious and onlookers don't worry too much, until just seconds later, she goes into cardiac arrest. She wasn't actually okay. The fall resulted in a ruptured vertebral artery, which led to severe brain damage due to the lack of oxygen and blood. Medical teams eventually arrive and bring her to the University Hospital in Salt Lake City, where she's placed in a medically induced coma. Truly one of the worst timings possible for an already very tragic crash. And unfortunately, she left this earth on January 19th, just 9 days later, from what seems like such a small mistake in her routine. On February 23rd, 2014, her ashes were spread in the mountains over Sochi, Russia, during the 2014 Olympic Games. Her former coach, Trenan Paintner, spread them in the halfpipe as a tribute to her legacy. This is a picture of Gernot Reinstadler, taken on Christmas, 1990, just weeks before he would suffer one of the most gruesome deaths in skiing history. Born on August 24, 1970 in Austria, Gernot was regarded as one of the most promising young talents of the Austrian downhill team. He was a rising star in the alpine skiing world. He competed in the Junior World Cups of 1988 and 1989 and was also able to win 3 medals in the Austrian Junior Cup. His future seemed destined for greatness. January 18, 1991 was one of the most important days of Gernot's career. It was his chance to prove himself, to solidify his place among the best. He had been selected to compete in the qualification round for the legendary Lauberhorn race in Switzerland. If you're not familiar with the Lauberhorn, it is the longest and most challenging downhill race in the Ski World Cup. It stretches over 3 miles, and skiers can reach speeds of over 100 miles per hour. Only the 30 fastest competitors would even have the opportunity to be on the world stage, and Gernot was one of them. Starting as number 44, he was filled with energy, so much so that his teammate Erwin Resch considered pulling him aside to warn him about being too reckless during the warm-up. He held back, however, thinking that a young athlete like
So even his teammate told him he was being too reckless. The teammate told him he was being too reckless, which means they could see
Gernot shouldn't be limited in any way. The qualification race was broadcast live, and for the first 2.5 minutes, Gernot raced down the course successfully. It seemed like the world would see him attending the World Cup
I've been
very
skiing
soon.
before.
But
And
right before
snowboarding. I
he's
bruised my
able to
tailbone
reach the
when I went
finish
there.
line, something so disturbing yet unbelievable happens. Gernot loses control and crashes into the safety nets at full speed. But instead of saving him, the net becomes a death trap. One of his skis gets caught in them, while he proceeds to fly off. A significant portion of his pelvis cracks, and he's almost ripped into 2 parts. The video is way too graphic to show you, but he's able to do the splits without any prior training, it seems like. The white snow is now covered in red. Paramedics rush to his side, trying everything in their ability to mitigate the damage, until a helicopter transports him to the local hospital. He has a 6-hour emergency surgery with numerous blood transfusions, but it's not enough. Gernot unfortunately leaves this earth shortly after midnight on the 19th.
I'm not gonna lie to you. To go out doing the splits, grinding your pelvic area on hard, compact snow, dude. Like that's a crazy shit, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. That's actually crazy.
His death sends shockwaves to the entire skiing world and definitely left thousands of people traumatized. The 1991 Lauberhorn race was cancelled in his honor, and more importantly, his accident led to significant improvements in safety measures, especially in the
safety net,
redesign of the
but
safety
he
nets,
still got
to ensure
snatched
that
out
no
of there.
skier would ever suffer such a horrifying event ever again.
Case number 6, baby.
Conquering Mount Everest is both an impressive and scary feat for the majority of climbers. 4.4 people die every single year trying to get up and then down again. But for some, even this is not enough to make them feel alive. Marco Zeffredi was a French snowboarder and mountaineer, but instead of doing both of these activities separately, he decided to combine them into one extremely dangerous but exhilarating sport. In 1996, only about a year after he learned how to snowboard, Marco decided to take up the challenge of climbing mountains for the sake of getting back down again by snowboarding. He made his first big descent from the Mallory route on the north face of the Aiguille du Midi, a descent that was around 3.
I want you to think about this though. You fall from this, you're cooked. And no one is out there. This isn't like a race. You fall from this and the buddy filming can't get you, you're cooked.
3,300 feet with passages close to 55 degrees, which is very steep. And this would be the very beginning of him risking everything to make his life a bit more exciting. At the end of the season, he made the first ever snowboard descent of the mountain Chardonnay, choosing yet again a route with 55-degree passages that could very much end him tragically. He made this descent with the help of his friend Philip Fort, who would later die in an avalanche, which is not an uncommon thing. Marco's brother Pierre also perished in the same way.
So his brother died in an avalanche, his friend died in an avalanche, and they were risking their life for the pleasures that they wanted.
Of tragic events happening to loved ones might scare off a lot of people. But Marco just kept going bigger and bigger, not caring about the risks. The next couple of years he would continue to add more descents to his resume. In 1999, he did the first snowboard descent and second ever descent of the Mont Blanc on the Aiguille Verte, 3,280 foot line, and sections reaching 60 degrees, a feat that solidified him among the world's best extreme snowboarders. After risking his life a couple of times over, he decided to go for the creme de la creme, a descent down Mount Everest. He wanted to be the first ever to achieve the impossible. And on May 23rd, 2001, it was time to make this very dream a reality.
Maybe for him, this was just him building his legacy, you know, like for him, he didn't care. He was doing something he loved and enjoyed and building his legacy. And if we're going to be fair, we're watching a video where he's in it, so clearly it worked.
It was a day after his birthday, and Marco just reached the summit of Everest with the help of extra oxygen alongside 2 Sherpas, who are an ethnic group that live in the high mountain regions. He had prepared for months to do this very thing, and he's now quite literally on the top of the world, ready to descend again. But to his unfortunate surprise, the route that he wants to ride down isn't covered in enough snow. Even for somebody like him, such an attempt would be stupid. He has to make a decision. Giving up now would be absolutely tragic, since he surprisingly wasn't the only one crazy enough to try this. Just the day before, Austrian climber Stefan Gatt reached the summit alone, without any help, and descended Mount Everest with his snowboard successfully. He, however, stopped midway through, since he found the snow to be too hard at that altitude. That meant, if Mark managed to have an uninterrupted descent down Mount Everest right now, he would still be the first person ever to achieve this goal. So instead of choosing his preferred route, the Hornbein Couloir, which he deemed the holy grail of snowboarding, he's gonna choose the Norton Couloir, which has enough snow to make this thing possible. And just like that, he starts the set.
I don't know if I would want to do something like this. Like, this just seems insane because one mistake and you're actually packed. It's
Ending.
crazy.
After just 600 feet
Covered
though,
with rocks.
a
Like, y'all see
fastening
this shit,
trap
right?
on a snowboard breaks due to the cold, meaning his boot isn't secured to the snowboard anymore. This could very much turn south in a matter of seconds. Luckily, one of the Sherpas manages to repair it by improvising, and he continues to descend more than 11,000 feet with a slope of 40 to 45
Wait, does he
degrees,
did it? He
and
did it?
arrives at the base camp just 4 hours after being on the highest point of Earth.
Hey, look. That's gas. He actually did that shit. That's gas. I'm not gonna hold
He
you.
actually settled, the news spread to everybody invested in snowboarding, making him the first person to descend down the world's highest mountain continuously. But he wouldn't be in this video if this was the end of the story. Things unfortunately only go downhill from here. Marco wanted to climb Mount Everest a second time, and this time descend by the Hornbein Couloir, the route he wanted to take the first time around. So on Sunday, September 8th, 2002, he started preparing again. August 14th, 2002.
So he successfully did it on one path. Now he wants to. Now he wants to do it on another path.
Marco goes to the base camp, the place where he can adjust to the high altitude. He looks through a telescope and he finds plenty of snow, which gives him the confidence he needs to descend with a snowboard a second time. After a while of getting used to the more difficult conditions, Marco and his team, so the other Sherpas, begin their real ascent, aiming for the higher camp on Mount Everest. The conditions, however, are brutal. Snowstorms and avalanches are tearing through the north face. Over the next couple of days, the Sherpas work on fixing the ropes and carrying the gear until they finally settle into Camp 1, which is at around 21,000 feet. Although they are nowhere near close to the summit yet, Marco is actually experiencing headaches, which wasn't really a problem the first time. But despite those difficulties,
So he was getting headache. Like, when they preface it with this information, it's like, damn, they really just pushed through even though they weren't feeling good. Bro wasn't satisfied. That's
they
facts.
still continue until they reach
Claudia!
Camp 2. With the conditions not looking any better, snowstorms and icy sections are still present. And then they reach Camp 3, which is also called the Death Zone. They reached altitude so high that the human body can no longer adjust or recover, which means that the body starts to break down. And this time around, Marco feels its full effect. Things aren't going well. His entire body is aching, and with these kinds of snowstorms, snowboarding would be a no-go. But eventually, there are actually good news. Marco called his trusted meteorologist over a satellite phone almost every day to check the weather conditions. And just then, he forecasted a window of time where he could actually snowboard down Hornbein Couloir with good weather.
Hornbein Couloir.
September 8th is the day he could finally descend Mount Everest a second time. And the final day rolls around. The morning begins early. By 1:30 AM, Marco and his team leave the camp, and as they climb, the Sherpas face the task of breaking through chest-deep snow, inching closer to the peak. And after 12.5 hours of progress, at 2:10 PM, they reach the summit of Mount Everest, 29,000 feet above the sea level. Marco is exhausted, tired, too much snow, too much climbing. He says to one of the Sherpas, but his will is stronger than ever. He changes his oxygen bottle.
Like, if we're gonna be honest, right? It sounds like everything that could go wrong, right? And you guys can let me know. It sounds like everything that could have gone wrong. Like, bro was like, fuck it, I'm gonna keep pushing. I'm just gonna keep going. Why not? And I get it. You're already there. You want to max it. You feel me? You want to max that shit. But if your body was hurt, the weather wasn't good, your head was hurt, shit, no. Look at how. Hey, twin. You already him, twin. Go take a break, twin. You already him, twin. Go take a break. You already him, twin. That's all I gotta say. You already him, twin. Go take a little break. Like you don't gotta keep flexing up for everybody else, twin. You already made it.
Straps on his pack and gets ready for the descent. But just when he's about to actually go down, clouds begin to roll in. Maybe today wasn't such a good day to actually descend after all. The Sherpas
Doesn't really look
warn
like
him
it was.
and urge him not to try his luck, since one mistake up here can change your life forever. But Marco has prepared everything for the past year for this very moment, and he may never get the same chance again. Take care, Marco, says one of the Sherpas. Okay, Furba, see you tomorrow. And then Marco begins his descent. He carves a few turns into the world's highest snow, pauses, and then proceeds toward the Hornbein Couloir. And just 50 minutes later, at 3:15 p.m., he disappears. The Sherpas watching from above see him vanish into the clouds. Now the rest of the team begins their descent too. But as they go down the mountain, they spot something eerie. They see what appears to be a man standing up and then silently sliding down the mountain. The Sherpas are certain that only them and Marco should be in this very place right now, which can only mean one thing. When they reach their destination, they can't find any snowboard tracks anywhere and no sign of Marco. He's gone. And unfortunately, he never makes it back home. A memorial was held for him at the Everest base camp a month later,
crazy,
with
bro.
his family and girlfriend as
Like, I'm not gonna lie, that's actually so crazy. He already was him. He did Mount Everest and accomplished that. He could have just chilled out, but he wanted to max. And you know what? You can't tell someone to not chase their dreams and their ambitions, but you gotta be safe. There's no point in losing your life over something that you already kind of accomplished. No point
well
in
as his
losing your
good
life,
friends being there.
period.
His body was never recovered, and nobody knows what truly happened to him during his descent. Unfortunately, even if you try to be as safe as possible, life sometimes has something else in mind for you. Now, I
Well, this
personally only
luging is
faintly
not-
knew about this sport, but luge is essentially a
safe.
small 1 or 2 person sled. It starts with the athletes propelling themselves with the luge. They then lie on it and navigate an icy track at speeds of 80 to 90 miles per hour. The goal, of course, is to be the fastest racer by actually steering the sled with subtle movements of the body. Now, this exact sport is in the Olympic Games, which doesn't mean that it's safe at all. It's 2010, and this year's Winter
Max
Olympics are being
out.
hosted in Canada. Among the many athletes gathered is Nodar Kumaritashvili, a 21-year-old luge athlete from Georgia. He comes from a family deeply connected to the sport. His grandfather actually introduced the activity to Soviet Georgia, and both his father and uncle competed when they were younger. The venue where the luge athletes will be competing is the Whistler Sliding.
Bro, what? Yes, you're laying on a tiny board, barreling through a ice cold track at 80 to 90 miles per hour. There's nothing safe about that.
Center. But before the Olympic Games even began, there were already a number of concerns about the place. The Olympic tracks in 2006 already resulted in multiple crashes. So this year, they had to make sure that everything goes as
Look at
smooth
this
as
shit, bro.
possible. But during testing, the luge speeds exceeded calculations by 6 miles per hour, reaching up to 95 miles per hour, which made the Luge Federation president Joseph Fendt concerned about the athletes' safety.
The track's fast. It certainly is. You definitely have to be on your game from 11 down. I think that's definitely something that they're going to have to take into account when they design future tracks.
But nonetheless, the Vancouver Committee for the Olympic Games deemed it as safe, which might have been the wrong call. It's February 12th, just hours before the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. Nodar is training on the track with his team. 25 whole attempts were already made, and it was now his final run. He starts his round by launching himself onto the sled.
So he already went through this 25 times with no issue. But the time that it was game time is when something happened. I want y'all to think about how crazy that really is.
And like always, it starts off quite normal. He makes the first few turns successfully and keeps getting faster and faster. Faster than he could ever imagine. He does more and more turns, and everybody watching him doesn't seem too worried, until he reaches the final turn of the course. This is where he suddenly loses control and is thrown off his luge and over the track's edge in a split second. He crashes into an unpadded steel support pole at the end of the run with a speed of 89 miles per hour. It's fatal. Medical teams come to his rescue immediately, where they do
Bro, at 89 or 90 something miles per hour, he got flung back bent into a metal frozen beam. Dude, like,
mouth-to-mouth and CPR. And after that doesn't do anything, he's immediately transported to the hospital nearby. But the impact was just too much for him to handle, and another athlete loses his life. It is the first luge fatality since 1975. The entire country of Georgia is in shock the moment his death is broadcasted on TV. And the Georgian team announces that they might skip the entire opening ceremonies or even withdraw from the Olympics entirely to show respect, but they end up staying to dedicate their efforts to their fallen comrade. One of his teammates, however, decides to leave the event and goes back to Georgia to attend his funeral instead, while the remaining teammates wear black stripes on their helmets.
That's actually insane. We are going to watch this though. 9 motorsports accidents. We're not gonna watch it right now, but this looks like it would be interesting. This looks interesting. This looks interesting. Let's just move this for now. But all right, that was like a crazy video. That was extremely like not what I was expecting. Hold on, guys. Hold on, chat. 1 second. You know this works. But that shit was like actually nuts. If I'm gonna be real with you, like, how does that even become a thing? All right. So now, oh, let me stop.